So after years of, you know, going through Valve games, playing, getting the Orange Box and playing Half Life 2, and that becoming like my favorite first person shooter game ever, I finally got Portal 2. Obviously, I can show this under free rights usage for reviews. If anyone wonders why I keep doing that, if you've seen some of my later reviews, I did that because of my Last of Us review. Like, all I did was show the cover, and I didn't say that, so I couldn't monetize the video. And I showed it once, so I have to say that. But Portal 2, obviously the sequel to the amazing game Portal 1, which was on the Orange Box, or just by itself if you bought it by itself. I wanted this game for a long time because I love the first Portal game. Obviously, all the reviews and stuff where Portal 2 is great. It's better than the original. Obviously, it's much longer than the original, and it has two separate stories, single player and the co-op story, which is also really fun to play. But for this one, starting off, it was really cool to have, just you start off in the little room. It's obviously a very funny game. It's really simple. It's like, you stand up. It's like, to teach you random, stupid little stuff. And then you look at a picture and it's like, this is art. And, that's your aptitude test for the day to see how smart you are and stuff like that. And then you get back in the bed and then you wake up later and everything's pretty much destroyed. And what I always found weird about that was, and I'm sure there's an explanation for it online somewhere, but I don't know it because I haven't looked it up personally. But at the end of Portal 1, you do escape the facility, so I'm assuming you just end up captured again. But you do end up escaping the facility, and so Portal 2 begins, and I wasn't sure if it was Shell or not. And once again, that was definitely so I wouldn't spoil anything for myself because I didn't want to know what the ending song was because everyone said it was really good too, and I love the first one. So I was like, I can't look up the ending song for this until I actually go through the game and beat the game. I can't look up any story elements for how who you are or how you end up in the facility or anything like that. So I went in not knowing the story at all, aside from the fact that GLaDOS does come back to life, and that I can't even think of the little robot who's with you, but Stephen Merchant, that's the actual guy who is hilarious in the game. I think he won an award for that. I'm pretty sure he won an award for that. And he's a great actor in general. If you don't know who Stephen Merchant is, look him up. He's hilarious. But you go through the game with him, and he's really funny going through. And the funniest thing they do, or one of the funniest things they do, is in the beginning when you first meet him. He says, like, can you speak or say something? And it tells you to hit a specific button, and then you jump. And he's like, all right, you just jump there. And he asks you another question, and you jump again. He's like, okay, clearly, you've really got jumping basics down. That's great. And he says, like, don't be alarmed, but you might have like a teeny tiny bit of severe brain damage. But that's okay. Don't freak out, because obviously you can jump great. You got that. You got that down pat, so we're good. And you go through the game, and it's you and him, and he, eventually you go through, and he kind of makes a mistake, and he wakes GLaDOS up again. And once she's revived, you kind of get screwed up, and you're put back into the normal Portal elements. Like in the beginning, before she's awakened again, you're going through trying to escape the facility, and things are really crazy, and things are destroyed and stuff like that, and you're like way off, and you have to like just shoot portals like all over the place to try to get through the facility. And then she wakes up again, and it goes back into regular Portal where she rebuilds the facility. And I like how they show it where it's even in one of like the first loading screen when you wake her up, that the facility is basically all the platforms are moving around, and some of the walls are acting kind of like brooms, and they're sweeping all the debris off to the side, or collecting it and basically pushing it back behind walls. So that's pretty fun to like go through the level and see certain parts of the facility still aren't working, where certain walls will be trying to pull in and close, but they just can't break through the wall, or complete rooms will be fixing themselves up while you're playing through the level. And it's just really fun to see that. To me, I just thought it looked really cool because we didn't get that in the first one. And you go through what I'd say is probably an hour, maybe a little bit less than an hour, the first couple of chambers before she's awakened again. So you see that real stark contrast between the beginning of the game and then, GLaDOS in control because she's cleaning it back up to, what it was in Portal 1. And so once you go through, there's a great twist in the middle, which I don't want to spoil for anyone, watching this. But like that was a great twist in the game to me personally, and I loved how it went. And I guess I kind of have to spoil it because it's kind of hard to explain the rest of the game without spoiling it, so it's a spoiler. But when you defeat GLaDOS and she's separated and you put Stephen Merchant into her body, he basically becomes evil. And so, like, you're about to escape on the elevator and stuff. And he's like, well, hold on a minute. What's the rush to leave? And, before he even did that, I was like, this isn't about to really go well because you could just hear it in his actual voice that he was becoming evil. And so you get knocked down to what was the 1960s version of Aperture, where I wish I could remember his name right now, but I just can't. But you get the original facilities, and I really love that part of the game. Like initially, when I heard the trailers and stuff and the recordings, I thought that this guy was like a new character in the game, and he was, like a scientist that worked at Aperture, and he was just saying all this stuff. But you find out when you go through the game that he was like the creator of Aperture, and you go through the game, you're pretty much on your own after that happens because GLaDOS is put into a potato and then she's carried off by a crow. So you're like, hundreds and hundreds of meters underground in the really old Aperture starting off in the 60s. And, it's cool you go through, and of course, with Valve being great with their comedy, you go through, you have all these insane recordings going off for the creator of Aperture talking about all this weird, crazy stuff. Like, if you feel like you have brain damage or something, make sure you don't like drink this water, or if you do already know you have brain damage, just go ahead anyway because you're already screwed, or something silly like that. And it's funny to go through that and play all the old. You play through all the old puzzles, and that's where they actually introduce the different gels, like the speed gel and the bounce gel and the portal gel, which is really fun to go through. And obviously it adds a whole new element to the game, especially in the portions where you use all of the different gels at one time. And it gets, it becomes challenging, but it's also really fun to, just play around and, figure out how to get through the puzzles because, it's a puzzle game, and it's, it challenges your brain, and it's fun to get through those challenges. They aren't impossible. Sometimes they can be, because there was one part where it was really hard for me. I had no idea what to do. And for anyone that played it, it was the part where all the colors are together, and like you can put the gel through the vents and it'll shoot it around the room, and you have to go up. It was something so simple that I just didn't notice, and I was stuck in that area for a long time. But eventually I got out of there. So you go through the 60s, then you go through the 70s, and I believe that portion that I was stuck at was the 70s portion. And then you end up in the 80s, I believe. And you've like in each portion of what I really liked was how they had the different style. It's like this is the 60s style, this is the 70s style look. Different chairs and stuff like that. And one of the things I liked was in the 60s and 70s they would have like ashtrays all over the place because you could just smoke wherever you wanted back then. And obviously it's a lot different now, but they just have like a waiting room, and it's just like here's like 8 ashtrays. Here's like the big stand, the big stand with the ashtray on top. And just actual elements, and even the symbol for Aperture changed for each decade, which I thought was pretty cool because you got to see that even in the loading screen with as time progressed, the logo eventually became like the little C for Aperture, or I guess it's just a circle, but it always looks like a C to me, and always makes me think Capture Laboratories. But you go through and you get a picture. I want to say his name's Dave Johnson. I think that's his name. But you see a picture of him, for each decade, and eventually he ends up sick. And I believe it's in the 80s portion, like at the end of the 70s, when you're like in between, you're at the door for the 80s portion, you actually find GLaDOS. And so, you're interacting with her, you stick her on the front of the portal gun. She doesn't say much except for like the specific portions. And I like how they wrote it in there where she would basically like freak out or something, and it would power her down for a little bit. And I thought that was pretty well done. But there was a portion where I was like stuck in a portal or in a puzzle, I mean. And I thought it was interesting that they didn't make it where she'd like insult you for not being able to, get through the puzzle fast enough, like calling you incompetent or something like that. Because she does, obviously it's GLaDOS if you play one or if you've only played two. She can be really sarcastic in her comments and call you stupid and things like that. It's really funny. And I just found it interesting that she would still have power during certain puzzles, but she wouldn't insult you to the point where she'd end up powering down, which I think would have been great if they had that in, every one. And it could have just been, she could have said like one thing and it really made her angry at you or something, and then she ended up powered off for the rest of the time until the next puzzle. And I just think that would have been cool, but like that's not even a gripe, it's just a random thing I noticed. And I think it was only for one puzzle where that actually happened to me. But you get through and then you get back up to Stephen Merchant, and I love how he's like trying to be like GLaDOS, where he makes all the new puzzles and stuff, and he mentions like he's out of puzzles or something, and then she says like, well, that's good because it's not like I stockpiled them or anything, and then or she no she mentions like he has to be running out of puzzles now because I was before you defeated me I didn't really recreate a ton of new puzzles, so he's got to be out soon, so we're gonna be okay. And he's like, hey, look at all these puzzles that I found, a bunch of testing areas. They were just like stockpiled pretty much. They're just like dust all the skeletons out of there, good as new. And she's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. They were just like mementos because she killed a bunch of people. And he'd bring in like an entire new portion. Like he would just like there would be nothing, and he'd just bring in a wall and just destroy like everything that was over there, and just like bring in a new portal to have you to like create a new testing area, like a makeshift testing area. I always thought that was, I thought it was funny, but I also thought it was actually kind of cool, just because we didn't get that in the first portal, so we get to see like a lot of cool little bits and pieces here and there, where you can like look off really far into the distance before he like closes the wall in. And the one part where he actually does that, I think it is that specific portion where he mentions he found like a random, a bunch of random testing areas. You get to see one of the co-op robots, and I believe it's Peabody. You get to see, and it's for like a quick second. But if you look over at your goal where you end up having to go, you can actually see him, and he'll kind of jump a little because he sees you, and then he'll run into the room. And that's just a random little thing that they had, which was actually pretty sweet to me. But you go through the game, and I love the end fight how they did it. It was really silly and also really cool. And you shoot a portal onto the moon, and that's just insane. And I thought it was really well done and funny. And Stephen Merchant's like off in space with the one core that's just talking about how they're in space. And then eventually GLaDOS is like, all I want to do is test, and all you do is screw that up for me, so you can just leave. And you go through, then you get your ending song, and well, you get the ending cutscene, and you have all the turrets kind of doing their musical. And if you actually notice, which is hard to miss, they have like the king turret in the background, which it was really funny because I thought that was just a random graphic that they did when they have like all the little videos playing in the very beginning. Or I guess once GLaDOS wakes up, they have all the videos starting up, and it was really funny to see that there's actually like a giant king turret. But you get out, and then they give you the companion cube, and you get your ending cutscene, and the game, you know, it was worth the wait. That's all I can really say about it. I loved the game. It was funny, great gameplay, of course. And then I went to co-op, which I've only played a little bit of. I played with a friend, and aside from the insane amount of lag that she had, which made it almost impossible for her to like grab this one item, we went through, and it was really fun. We got to we played around, went through some of the levels, and before I bought the game, this was about, I think I want to say it was last year. I had ended up playing a few levels at a convention with somebody, and like me and her, we just played a few levels, and it was like, all right, nice to meet you, but then we just left, and it was just pick up and play fun co-op game experience. And they have all the little gestures and stuff, which are really funny to see. But overall, the game is obviously amazing. Can't wait for Half-Life 3 if that ever comes out. I had to throw that in there, of course, but Portal 2, you know, fantastic game, show, obviously, woman of zero words, but cool characters. Obviously, very tough getting through all that stuff because I'd be screwed. But fun game overall. Definitely let me know what you thought of Portal. If you have any custom levels, put them below. I guess I haven't even tried that out. I actually just thought about it, but I'm definitely gonna try that out. Play some custom levels. Try to make a custom level, which would probably take me like 5 years, and it'll still suck. But I guess I'll try it out anyway, just to have fun with it. But let me know what you thought of Portal 2, Portal 1 if you want, Valve, whatever you want. Just comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching.